Hello and welcome to Following Funnel Force. My name's Brent Stone.
What's up, guys? Glenn Martin here. Super excited to share with you guys again today.
It's going to be awesome. We've got some good stuff. We're talking about strategic follow-ups. We're going to be going over some of what people should be doing from a tactical, step-by-step basis, but then we're going to talk about why. So some of the things initially
Absolutely.
kind of coming right out of the gate is helping people understand, follow-ups set people apart in sales because some of the data, if you were to go and dive into sales research and look at, most sales are made by call 7. Now, this is like looking at sales as a whole. There's a lot of different types of sales out there. There's relational selling, there's one and done type of sales. There's lots of different products that you can sell and ways that you can sell. No doubt about it.
Right.
But today, we're talking about like local agency sales, things dealing with like social media management or relationship style selling that just opens a relationship. You don't close it and then move on. You actually, you have a contract signed, but then you go into the relationship and you take care of your client. And so that's the type of sales that we're going to be talking about today. Hopefully you're excited about that, especially if you're tuning in. I'm assuming that you're probably some type of a marketing person or you have a agency of some sort.
Yeah. I think that when you look at follow-ups and you look at, obviously the sales and the aspect, you mentioned the 7th follow-up is typically where the sales kind of happens whenever before that takes place. But then once someone is a client, I believe that's where most people will fall off on the follow-up and what happens. And so I think that if you're here and you've got clients and you are trying to figure out how to sell them more or to continue to re-sign them year after year, the reason that so much churn ratio happens is because of this lack of follow-up. So, I can give so many stories. I don't know. Should we just start with stories of like
Yeah,
why?
let's do it. Let's start with, yeah.
I'll just give an example. There was an event that I was at last year where I ended up bringing in a client who opted in for our CRM system, which very, low ticket, low barrier of entry type of offer. And because we stayed connected, because I continued to see how I could help, I ended up, upselling him in that space to where now I came in and build out his entire automations and everything inside the CRM. And then we continued the relationship, continued, working together. And the next thing I know, he is, getting our largest lead generation package because I wanted to make sure that this works. So, me following up with him was like, hey, how's everything going? He's like, well, it's going good, but I have no clue how to do all this stuff. And I was like, well, I'd be happy to help. He's like, just tell me how much. Cause I don't want to think about it. And then we follow up again. And that's, in that scenario now, it's gone from being let's just call it a couple $100 client to now someone that is worth, 5 figures to us or more. And so it's very valuable because that's a long-term client now that we're going to continue to carry forward. And yeah, like that's one scenario. And I could give you just a bunch of examples, but it's very, very effective. And most people would stop and say, oh man, sweet. I got a reoccurring, $200 client. Yay, let's go get 10 more. Well, your best clients are some of the ones that you have right now. That's the ones where, the bulk of your revenue can continue to come in. So,
Well, that makes a really great point. One of the things that I heard a long time ago from some really skilled salespeople, and in the radio business, as a matter of fact, talking about second money being the easiest. So after somebody says yes to you, it's always easier to go back in and then make that second sale for a couple reasons, but
absolutely.
typically because people trust you and they like you and they have an established relationship with you. And if they buy again, it also means that they probably think that your product's doing pretty good for them. And so what's really cool is that when you follow up after the sale, which is a whole, like, that's actually more important than what even I was even talking about. So this is really good. So a couple things here. We can get into the follow up before somebody signs on the dotted line, which is like what people should be striving to go after if you're new in sales or if you're running a local business and you're new at this. The whole idea is to be able to go and continually see people that are in your buying range. I'm not talking about just going and seeing people and they don't have money to buy your services. You can't really serve them because they don't have the means to be able to use what you're selling. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being able to look at, you know, going back and building a relationship with somebody and seeing value in building that relationship before they even say yes, and making sure
Right.
that you can see where that's going, and you can kind of identify those people. The more people you call on, the more conversations that you have. Some people might not agree with that. I just some of the best relationships that I had on my client list over the years have been from people that I just, even though they weren't they weren't buying right in the beginning, I kept on going back and going back, and then as soon as they realized I was trying to help them more so than just sell them, then they became a client for a long time. But yeah, I mean, back to what
Yeah.
you're saying, Glenn, that's super awesome. Just being able to follow up with people after the sale is made and just seeing if there's any other things that we can do to help them. And even if it's either included in what they've already bought or if it's an upsell or whatever the case is, you're still trying to service them to the best of your ability. And I think that that's where a lot of people drop the ball. So there's the pre-close follow up, which
Yep.
is just separates the lazy salespeople from the productive salespeople and the people that really want to actually make this a career. And then you've got where the real professionals are. You've got the follow up after the sale is made, and there's so much to be said for that, because I've even seen it before and you know, other lines that I've been in, other lines of business that I've been in, coworkers of mine or whatever. You know, not everyone. I've seen some really, you know, top tier salespeople follow up after the sales made, and I've watched some people also bomb it. And so, like, I've gotten the luxury of watching it play out two different ways, and then I got to make a decision. You know, when I was young and into this space, what do you do? Are you going to go and pursue what you think is right, which is basically taking care of that client and respecting them like they're your six-figure client, even though they might have only been on a $200 a month level? The answer is yes, because I have a client of my own who one year wasn't doing anything with me. The next year they spent $1,200. The next year after that they spent 40,000. Year after that they were up over 120. I mean,
Yep.
that's something that was, you know, a good thing that I had some type of effort into building that relationship, because that's something that, you know, a lot of people will be like, well, that just seems like a waste of time. You're going to spend how much time keeping up that relationship for $1,200, and the year before they didn't spend anything. I think there's something there. Okay, I think there's something there. No, the evidence isn't there, Brent. Well, I went with my intuition, and thank goodness I did. So anyway, back to you. I keep on talking, so I'll give you a chance to weigh in on this stuff.
No, I think that, you know, there's two sides of it. And I kind of went the other way first, but now bringing it back, I think where you got to understand what product you're selling. And I think some people's follow up is they go in and they pitch really hard in the beginning when they should have just strove to build a relationship. And then they followed up on the relationship. And then they're like, hey, I see this about your company. I think we could help you in this area. And so there could have been 2 to 3 connections before you even offer what you have. Now, if it's a cold lead or if it's a cold business, you probably need to at least offer something so they want to see you come back. But I think that there's different avenues to this, where sometimes you'll have people come in just so heavy on the commission breath where they're like, I don't even know you, but you need what I have. And they won't leave. And the person's just like, don't talk to me, because number one, I never saw you before today. I didn't even know that our business needed this. And they might actually agree with you when they start seeing your little spiel. They're like, I didn't actually know that I needed this. Now I do, but I don't like you because you're not giving me a chance to build a relationship. And I know for local business owners, that's a really big deal, because I think your first connection should be literally that. My name's Glenn Martin. This is what I do. Can I drop a card and come back another time? And then you just leave. And then you come back a week later or a couple days later and you're like, hey, I know I dropped some stuff off, just super random. Wanted to see if there's a chance that we could get a time to connect. And now you set up a connection, and you're now starting to build some familiarity with these people. And it allows for, you have to look at what's your time frame from initial engagement to client. And if it's $100 sale, it's probably really quick. If it's multiple thousands of dollars, it's not going to happen in a first engagement almost ever. And they look at online, people need to be touched about 15 times in order for them to want to buy. And I don't think that that's always true, but especially if you're a startup business and nobody has any clue who you are, then that's probably a fairly accurate representation. Man, but there's so many ways to shorten this down before you actually get on a call with them. And so when in the world
Sure.
of automation, you can touch them 5, 6, 7, 8 times before you even get on the first call. And so now, since you've touched them so many times, you can still do 1 or 2 call closes. It doesn't mean you need to have 15 calls in order to close that deal. That would be a bad scenario. But that's not what we're talking about today. I can kind of get into the weeds because there's so many aspects to this.
Touches relate to follow-up because that's a way you can synthetically increase your follow-up speed, which that's just something that, we
Yeah.
should circle back around to. It is relevant. I think that's a really great thing that you hit on that, because so many people, if they're not familiar, like, okay, if you have someone, I mentioned the Booty Award on one of the previous episodes about Booty
Yep.
Deckard, and he had a sales route and all these things. Well, part of the reason, and this is just agreeing with what you just said, if you're going after local businesses and you stop in, drop your card off with no agenda other than letting them know what you do, and hey, you're probably going to throw this in the trash. I wanted you to see my face and see that I'm a real person. That's no problem. I'll come in next week. The owner's probably like, please don't. But then but then you come back and they're like, oh, okay, you came back. You said you were coming back. You came back. I did. I just wanted to bring you another card. You might have thrown the first one away. I'm really excited about what I do, but I'm not here to talk to you today about that. Can I get on your calendar? I want to respect your time. Can I get on your calendar for sometime next week? Okay, sure. And then you go back in there, you talk to them about what you do, and then you come back, you set another time, you book a meeting from that meeting, and you come back again, probably the same day, same time frame, come back again and sit down with them. Then you tell them what you do again.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, do you mind just telling me a little bit about what your needs are? And you actually, in that next sit down, you should, and honestly, you should be asking them what their needs are in the first sit down.
Exactly.
But because you want to start learning, and this, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the listeners, but basically it's like, you're asking them, hey, what do you need right now currently in your business? And where a lot of business owners here's the thought process. A lot of business owners don't want to tell you because they're like, if I tell you what I need, even if you don't provide it, you're going to go out and figure out a way to provide that service and come back and try to sell me on it. And I'm going to end up spending more with you than whatever else. So a lot of times owners, what they'll do is they'll let you pitch your stuff. And so they learn what you do and how much it costs and all the things, just to see if it's a little bit better than what they currently have. The difference maker is in the follow-up and the quality of your interaction with them. Because if they end up liking you more than their current service provider, they will leave them to come to you. And that's what a lot of salespeople don't understand. Even if your service is a tad more expensive, if they think that you're going to service them better than their current whatever they've got and it's going to work better, here's the thing. If I'm a business owner and I'm spending like $1,500 a month for this service, and this service provides me $5,000 a month of value, and you come in with the service costing $2,000, however, your service provides me $8,000 a month of value, that's an extra $3,000 for an extra $500. That's good business. That makes good business. And if I know you're local and you're going to come see me on a weekly basis, I know that if I've got an issue, I can probably call you, no questions asked, but I know I'm going to see you probably in 6 days. So that provides comfort. And if we're talking about making sales, a lot of it is just based on trust. So if people trust you, they're probably going to buy from you. I know one thing that we used to talk about all the time in the networking business, if people can see your life, basically can see their life being better with you in it than not in it, they're going to get in business with you. Well, I mean, let's be honest. If the owner can see their life being easier and there's less friction because of the service you can provide them, they're going to buy from you. Like, it's the same psychological mechanism. Like, this isn't a hard thing. So if they think that their life's going to be more complicated because you're just really extra and you got a lot of stuff going on and you've got 4,000 flyers for them and they need to see all this stuff, they don't have time for that. But do they like you? That's the first thing you establish. Then you can start telling them a little bit about what you do. And then once you figure out, hey, what their needs are, then if they haven't kicked you out the door yet, you can sort of put that stuff together. And here's the thing. Here's the beautiful thing. If you got someone that's really rude and they kick you out after like, 2 times of going in there, you don't need to go back. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't go back. I'm just saying you don't have to if you don't want to. If your time's super valuable and you're making a couple sales a day, and you're still trying to keep your cold calling muscle strong, you don't have to beat yourself over the head with a 2x4 once you get to a certain point. Now, in the beginning, I think that there's nothing wrong with going back and just trying to sharpen your skills with difficult people, because it'll teach you how to be really respectful to people that are really not nice. And I think that there's a lot of value in that if you're trying to make a name for yourself in the sales space, because a lot of people, man, Glenn, I'm sure you probably run into people out in the field. I know I have. It's like there's some people, they can't keep their temper in check, and they would be so wealthy if they could just not get mad. And I'm not perfect. I've definitely gotten irritated before, and I've definitely lost sales because people have made me really irritated. But in the very beginning, when I was getting started with this, I was really good, because in the very beginning, I realized, if I don't respect this person's answer for what they just gave me, even if it's disrespectful, I'm going to get a reputation that I'm a hothead salesperson, and no one's going to buy from that.
Yep.
And I just think that there's a lot of value that people should learn. So many people are like, oh, well, I'm an individual. They should respect me as a human. Yeah, that's true. But that business owner, they're solving problems. Every minute is worth a couple $100. So like, if you're not providing value and you're just like, whatever, that's a problem. So in the beginning, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to like turn it back over to Glenn. But basically in the beginning, they're evaluating how valuable is this person to me? Like what is this interaction? What's this relationship with this salesperson going to yield me? Is our product actually worth my time? That's another insight into how somebody that runs a business, how they think. And it's not like people are rude, or it's not that they don't care about people. It's just when you're running a business and you've got fires you're putting out all the time, because typically if you're a business owner, that's what you're doing. You're helping people manage their behavior, their attitudes, like your staff. Like you're trying to make sure that all these things are moving right. You kind of go out of the sales role as a business owner and you step into this role of, I got to keep the machine working correctly. And if you take up too much of their time providing them no value, or not building trust with them, well, it's real easy. It's a real easy equation here. They're not going to spend more time with you. They're not going to buy from you. Anyway, okay. Flip it back to Glenn. Kind of pick up where I took that tangent.
No, this is good. For everybody that's listening, you'll find this really awesome. We had some notes that we wanted to go through today. Totally not following the notes because this is a lot better. And see, that kind of goes with sales. Actually, some of you have this thing, and you've got your whole list of everything that you want to cover with this prospect, and you go in there, and the person asks you a question. You're like, oh, I didn't have that one down. You're completely derailed. You have no clue what to say. You got to be able to kind of go with the flow. And one of the things I wanted to refer back to, you had mentioned this one client that you brought on that I think his first year was like $1,200, and you're like, long term, this is going to be good. So I'm going to, essentially court this relationship because I know that down the road, this is going to be. The problem with most business owners today is that they have Instagram and they follow these people that were broke and then they built $1 million business in like 3 months. Here's what they don't understand is that individual had been developing those skill sets in the time that they were broke to then enable them to do those things. And a lot of those people, they'll tell you themselves, they actually kind of caught a lucky break and it allowed them to, go out. Everybody right now is talking about Alex Hormozy's new book, $100 Million Leads. I actually haven't gotten my copy yet, but I know it's going to be a really good book. See, everybody loves Alex Hormozy, but they didn't see everything he did before that fateful night where he was like, all right, let's turn on the ad spend for, whatever it was, $100,000 a day and hope that this works. See, why is he so successful? Because all this time before he was following up, honing his skill set. He was patient. He was doing the work. And why am I telling you that? Because when you are building your client base, most people want to go from being, I have no clients in sales to I want to be the guy that closes $2 million in his first 3 months. And so you are impatient as all get out. Like you go in there and you want to close everybody you talk to instead of saying, man, I'm going to get sales, but I am going to be the best relationship builder that's ever been in this company because 2 years from now, I want to have a book of sales that's doing X. And so you're impatient. And so if you come into it with the perspective of sales is a long-term game, sure, I could potentially close a lot of deals up front if I'm professional and I do things the right way. But ultimately,
Yeah.
I want to be that guy that business owners know when I come in, they like me, not because of X, Y, they like me as a person and they like me now because I have taken time to learn to know about them. Hey man, how's your daughter? You told me she just started school. Is everything going well? Yeah, things are great. And that's amazing. I'm super happy for you. That's exciting. Versus every time you come in, you're like, ah, dude, I can't wait. We got a new product. It's not that expensive. Don't worry about it. But man, I'm so excited to tell you about it. And if that's every time you come in, that's a problem. If that's every once in a while you come in, you're like, dude, I could not wait to come in and tell you about this because I know you're going to be so pumped. See, now it's different because you have a relationship between there's some people that I know, when I hear from them, when they want to sell me
When they've
something.
got when they've got a really good product.
In between them, nothing. I don't hear from them, but then they're like, "Hey, Glenn," and I'm like, "What do you?" It's basically like, "What do you got to sell me now?" And it's not like I don't like these people, but it's just they have not taken any time to invest into my life, and so therefore, it kind of doesn't really pull me. I'm just kind of like, if it's in the price range, I'll think about it, and if it's not, I won't. You know, because they
Yeah.
have no really strong relationship with me, and that's what you guys are trying to combat because I know of a scenario. One of my clients right now, I went in to kind of re-sign a deal and he's like, I got pitched on this and it's definitely lower than what you guys are bringing to the table. And there was a lot of reasons for that. This other company was definitely doing some shady things. They weren't including, ad spend in their offer. They weren't including a lot of this. And so I kind of pointed it out, but I said, you know what? You have to know if it's about price, I can't touch that price. But I also can't lower ours because everything that we're giving you, we have ad spend, we have all these things included. And you know what he told me? He's like, well, Glenn, I like you and I like the way that you do business. I really don't want to change anything, but I just wanted to address this with you to see if what you thought of it. And because I was not scared, because I was not um what I forget the right word I can't think of, but I was not ashamed of what we had to bring to the table and I was not cowarding under a price because I knew it was everything that we do. I knew all these different things. He was just like, I wasn't really planning to go with them anyway. I just wanted to know what you would have to say with it. And I like you and I like the way that you do business. Boom. See, but that took time. Like that was we built that relationship over time. And that didn't happen, the very first time. Cause if I had to bet, had that happened the same time that I was trying to build that relationship, price can kind of be a thing at the time, but I took even before he ever signed as a client, I probably saw that guy 5, 6, 7 times before we ended up signing in any type of starter type of deal. And it's pretty neat. So,
That's awesome. That's really cool. It's a
so
great example. Well, man, I think that this is really good. I'm like, I think giving people some examples of like how to think about this stuff has been really good. I don't know if we want to go too much longer on this because we're already at we're about 25 minutes. So I think we might cap it. Hopefully everyone's excited about what we're going to do next. We actually have some really cool things set up for episode 10, just to give everyone a teaser here. So we're going to be talking
yeah.
about time management, going through some tips and different things in time management and talking about, why that's important, because there's a lot of time we can waste at the beginning of the day, the end of the day. Email can suck you in, steal your soul. It's just like so many things can happen where you don't protect your attitude when you open your email inbox and you got angry people shouting at you, or whatever, ads that are trying to pull your attention away, sell you something else, and before you know it, an hour and a half goes by, and that's your prospecting time, and then you feel
You're out
like
to
you're
lunch.
behind the eight ball, and you're just under the gun the rest of the day, and your
Yeah.
day's not good then. So time management's big. So Next episode, we're going to touch on that. Guys, thank you all so much for tuning in to hear from Glenn and myself. And until then, we will see you later. Bye, y'all.